everyone, Chef Taylor here, and welcome to the Rooks to Cooks Lunch Club. This is our very first day. We're going to be cooking lunch together every day while you're at home. Our first recipe that we have up to date is our chickpea Caesar wrap. So we're going to make a crunchy portion, a salad portion, and we're going to make our very own Caesar dressing. So let's get started. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on getting our crispy, crunchy chickpeas. So I've got some chickpeas here. I just took them out of the can, drained them, and rinsed them. You can use dried ones too if that's what you've got at home, but they need to be soaked overnight and then cooked until they're tender on the inside. And then nicely dried. So my chickpeas are nice and dry, and I'm going to toss them with some garlic powder, some salt, black pepper, and oil. And what this is going to do is it's going to flavor up our chickpeas, and the oil is going to help them get nice and crispy in the oven. These are going to be instead of having croutons in our Caesar salad wrap, so we have that nice crunch. Now you might notice that I've got quite a few chickpeas in the bowl here, and that's because we're actually going to use them later in the week as well. So we're prepping now so that we've got all of our meals ready to go for the week. So a nice toss so that those chickpeas are nicely coated in our seasoning and our oil. And I'm going to put them onto my baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper and spread them out. You want to spread them out into a single layer so that every chickpea has a chance to get nice and crispy for that added crunch inside our salad wrap. Okay, and now these are ready to go. They're going to go into the oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. We want to keep an eye on them and, give them a little shake and a move around about halfway through cooking so that we get a really great texture in the end. All right, I'll see you back in a second. All right, so while our chickpeas are doing their work in the oven and getting nice and crispy and crunchy, we're going to work on the rest of our mise en place. Now, mise en place is a French word that means everything in its place. So we're going to get everything ready to go before we're ready to assemble our Caesar salad wraps. And that's something we're going to keep doing throughout the week together, is making sure all of our ingredients are prepped, ready to go before we start doing any of our cooking or assembly. So for my Caesar salad wrap, I'm going to be using kale today because that's what I have in my fridge, but you can use cabbage, you can use romaine lettuce, whatever nice leafy greens you have in your fridge. The nice thing about kale also is that it's super nutritious, but it's also very hardy, so it doesn't wilt the same way as some other lettuces might. But it does have these tough stems on them. So I eat the stems, I love the stems, but I don't want them in my salad wrap, so I'm going to strip my leaves off of the stems, and I'm going to keep the stems for another recipe. I'm probably going to saute them up and put them in a stir fry or something. But all of these leaves, I want to get off of the stems. I'm going to stack them all up together, and then we're going to give them a little bit of a rough chop so that they're a nice salad bite size. Now for our Caesar salad wrap, we're also going to be making the dressing. So some of the knife work we're going to do right now is going to go into the dressing as well. So everything is going to be homemade except for the tortilla wraps. So you're really going to get to see this entire salad come together. If for some reason you don't have tortilla wraps, you can also just eat this salad out of a bowl. It's super tasty the way that it is. So when I'm stripping the kale off of the stem, I'm just using my hand. So I'm pinching these two fingers together and I'm going in the opposite direction the leaves are growing. So the leaves are growing up and I'm going to go back down, and that's going to help me strip the leaves off of my stems. I've got this nice big pile of wraps here because I'm going to be making wraps for a couple people. I don't just want to prep lunch for myself, I want to make lunch for my family too. So if I'm doing the work, I might as well do a little bit extra. So now that I've got these all off of the stem, I'm going to push them back to the other side again. I'm going to gather them up and I'm going to work on just chopping them. So I'm going to take several leaves and bunch them up together. I'm going to roll them up, and this hand is going to hold them while my other hand is using the knife. So to protect our fingers, we're going to make a little C or a claw. And what that does is it tucks our fingers in so we know that the knife is not going to come near our fingers. If you're cooking along at home, this would be the hand also. You would have your non-cut protective glove on. So I'm going to put my little claw down. I've got my fingers tucked in, and my other hand's going to pick up my knife, and I'm going to slice through so that I get these nice ribbons of kale. This is also going to make it a lot easier for my kale to fit inside my wraps. And I'm going to keep doing this until I've got all of the kale prepped up. So wrapping it all together, slicing through into nice ribbons. And as I go, I'm going to clear my board, okay, and keep making more space for myself. This part goes pretty quickly. all right? So slicing through, and anytime you're doing any of the knife work or you're cooking in the kitchen, make sure you've got an adult that's there with you and just having an eye out so that you're not alone in the kitchen with a knife. We want to make sure that everyone's going to be nice and safe while they're cooking with us for the Worcester Cooks Lunch Club. My last bit of kale here, I'm going to gather all together. Run my knife through it one more time. And see how that kale really broke down? It's much smaller than it was when I first started. I've got the stems reserved for another recipe I might work on a little bit later today. And all of my leafy parts are gonna go into this bowl so that when I'm ready to assemble my salad together, they're ready to go. I'm gonna tidy up so that I've got enough space to start the next part of my recipe. All right, so for some added crunch, a little bit of color and some flavor, we're also gonna be putting some carrot in our Caesar salad. So I'm just using part of a carrot because my carrots were really, really big today, but if you've got smaller carrots, you can use the whole thing. And what I've done is I've already peeled up my carrot. So I'm gonna make a nice flat base for myself first because I don't want my carrot to roll around. So I'm gonna take that claw again, tuck my fingers in, and cut a piece off the bottom of my carrot to make a nice flat surface. So see how I've cut just a little bit off? And now I'm gonna cut this into planks. And we want them kind of thin. We're looking for a julienne on our carrots. So what that means is these nice thin strips. So now that I've got my planks, I'm gonna take them and I'm gonna cut some nice thin strips. And these are a little bit long, so when I'm done cutting all the strips, I'm gonna cut them in half so that, once again, they're gonna fit nicely in my wrap. And this is gonna be some added crunch and texture in there, along with our nice and crispy chickpeas that we have working in the oven right now. The reason why we did the chickpeas first is because they take about 20 minutes to cook. So that gives us the perfect amount of time to get all of our knife work done, prep up our veggies, and make our salad dressing while those chickpeas are getting nice and crispy. So now that I've got them all into these nice sticks, like I said, they're a little bit longer than what I like, or what I think is gonna fit nicely in my wrap. So I'm just gonna cut them in half so they're a bit shorter. And then I'm gonna move them into my bowl off to the side. This guy here, my little bench scraper, is my favorite tool beyond my hands in the kitchen because it's a safe way to move things from my cutting board into a bowl, into a pot. It does all of the heavy lifting for me. And when we work with dough, we use the other side, so always handy. I've always got this guy nearby. So this last thing we're gonna do with our knife is we're gonna work on our garlic. So we're making our very own Caesar salad dressing. And to do that, we've got a bunch of sauces we're gonna mix together. We'll have Worcestershire, we've got vinegar, oil, and some mustard. But a lot of the flavor in a Caesar salad comes from garlic. So we're gonna mince these up and we want it nice and small so that it's gonna fit into our salad dressing. So the first thing I'm gonna do is trim off those little root ends of my garlic. And I can get rid of those. And now that I've got those trimmed up, I'm gonna flatten my garlic with the back of my knife. And we're gonna work on mincing. So I'm gonna cut one way into nice thin strips with my garlic. And then I'm gonna turn it and I'm gonna cut the other way, basically making tiny little squares. Now this is pretty small, but because I'm putting this into a sauce or a salad dressing, I wanna make it even smaller. So let me get my other clove to the same point, cut one way in long strips and then the other so we have little squares. And now to finish mincing it and get it nice and small so it incorporates, we're gonna use our rocking knife motion. So this hand that it has been making the C is now gonna go on top of the back of my knife, and I'm gonna run my knife through the garlic back and forth until it gets nice and tiny. So the tip of my knife is never leaving the cutting board, and I'm just rocking back and forth, and then I can gently bring it back together and keep going until I get it nice and small. I don't wanna get a huge bite of garlic when I'm eating my salad wrap, but I want enough that the flavor really comes through. So I've got it pretty nice and small. Bench scraper is gonna come back. I'm gonna brush everything off of my knife. Tidy this up. And this is gonna go into my dish so that when I've got the rest of my ingredients assembled, I'm ready to make my Caesar salad dressing. So that's gonna be our next step, and I'll see you back here in just a minute. All right, next step for our Caesar salad wrap, we're gonna be working on making our Caesar salad dressing. So you can see I've got all of my ingredients ready to go for this. I've got my big mixing bowl and a whisk, And then in terms of ingredients, I've got that minced garlic that we worked on earlier with our knife, some Parmesan cheese, an egg, my salt, pepper, and oil. I'm gonna be using just canola oil today, but if you've got vegetable oil and olive oil, you can do a 50-50 split. I also have some Dijon mustard, a lemon to get some nice lemon juice for brightness, white wine vinegar, and our Worcestershire sauce. So the very first thing we're gonna do is separate our egg. We just want the egg yolk, we don't need the egg white for this recipe, so I'm gonna separate my egg, put my egg yolk into here, and the egg white I can save for something else later. When I'm cracking my egg, I wanna make sure I crack it on a flat surface and not on my bowl, because if you crack on your bowl, you might end up with a little bit of shell, and we're trying to avoid that crunchy texture from the eggshell in our Caesar salad dressing. So nice little crack, and I'm gonna let the egg white fall away into this container so that I just have the egg yolk. And the egg yolk is nice and fatty, and that's gonna give a nice creamy texture to our Caesar salad dressing. So I've got just the yolk, it goes into my mixing bowl. And this egg white I'm gonna put away for now because I don't need it. All right, so my egg yolk's in the bowl. Next up in here is gonna be our minced garlic. And then our Dijon mustard. Now mustard is something that's really handy when you're making Caesar salad dressing because it helps hold the dressing together. So it's not really gonna taste like mustard, but it's gonna be our friend in terms of holding the oil in there. So I'm gonna give this a mix together until the egg yolk and the mustard are fully combined. And this is why it's important to get that garlic really nice and small so that you don't have these big bursts of garlic when you're biting into your Caesar salad dressing. To this I'm gonna add my white wine vinegar. I want a teaspoon of white wine vinegar in here, and that's gonna be most of the acid in our salad dressing that we're tasting. So just a teaspoon of that, whisk that together. At this point, it's starting to look a little bit more liquidy in my bowl. And see how it's getting lighter in color? By the time we're finished with this, it's gonna be really light in color because we're gonna incorporate air as we add our oil in. What we're doing when we're making a salad dressing, like Caesar salad or even a mayonnaise, is we're emulsifying the egg yolk, the Dijon, the vinegar, and the oil all together. So we're forcing them together by incorporating air. So I need to keep mixing as I slowly add my oil in. So I'm gonna get a steady stream going, really slow, and keep whisking as I do this. It's gonna start to thicken, and it's also gonna get lighter in color. I'll stop in a little bit so you can see the progress as I keep whisking away at this. If you've got a friend at home with you, they can certainly hold your bowl for you. Mine's doing a little bit of a dance across the cutting board right now, but that's okay. So I'm about halfway through the amount of oil I'm gonna add. It's about half a cup total. So right now, just a quarter cup of oil in there, and see how it's gotten creamier looking. It's lighter in color, and it looks thicker. This is because we're adding that air in with the oil. So I'm gonna keep going and add the other quarter cup of oil in a slow, steady stream. I'm whisking the whole time, and I wanna keep going around the bowl. I don't wanna go too fast, because if you go too fast with the oil, you might have a hard time getting it all to mix in, and it might actually split. So nice and slow. See that gradual stream I have? This is a great time for teamwork, so if you've got a friend that's cooking in the kitchen with you, maybe a brother or a sister, you guys can take turns with the whisking, and you can take turns with holding the bowl and pouring the oil. All right, so that's about my half a cup of oil now. You can see we've got a nice light yellow color here, and we're just missing a few more ingredients from our Caesar salad dressing. We've got some Worcestershire sauce. This is just gonna add a little bit of tangy saltiness. And we don't even have any salt in here yet, so that's gonna be the next thing as well. We need to season with salt and pepper. And then the last ingredients are gonna be our lemon juice and our Parmesan cheese. So Parmesan's gonna go in, and this is gonna thicken our Caesar salad dressing even more. Can't have a Caesar salad without Parmesan. I love cheese, so I think it's an important ingredient. And it's even thicker now. It's a little bit thicker than I want, so that's where the lemon juice comes into play. A big part of seasoning is not just using salt, not just using pepper, but using acid as well. So our lemon juice is our flavorful acid that we're adding to this. So I've got about half of the lemon here already cut. I'm gonna use my handy lemon squeezer, one of my favorite kitchen tools, and squeeze my lemon juice into here, and then whisk this together. So that's gonna thin out my salad dressing a little bit. It's also gonna add a great flavor. I love fresh lemons, that's one of my favorite smells. Wakes me up in the morning. And so you can see I've got a nice creamy Caesar salad dressing. I'm gonna give it a taste, make sure that it tastes the way I like, and then we're just about ready to assemble our Caesar salad wraps. Tastes great. All right, chefs, we're back now after roasting our chickpeas in the oven. So we've got our nice and crispy toasted chickpeas here. I've also toasted up some sunflower seeds that we're gonna add into our salad mix. So we're gonna get started with our mixing. So I'm just gonna make enough for one wrap right now. So I'm gonna add my kale in here, some of my carrots, my crispy chickpeas, which are my favorite part. I love that crunch. These are gonna be like our croutons in our Caesar salad. They're also adding a little bit of extra protein to this salad, and then some of our toasted sunflower seeds. Toasting them just brings out a nice nutty flavor in them so that they don't just don't kind of get lost with the strong flavors of our Caesar salad dressing. And last but not least, we have our freshly made Caesar salad dressing. So in here, the dressing that we just made, remember we've got those strong flavors. We have the garlic, the Parmesan, the lemon. So we're really gonna have a vibrant salad wrap. That's why we wanna make sure that everything else that goes in here is gonna be able to balance out with that. So I'm gonna add some of my dressing in. I don't wanna add all of it because I don't want it too saucy, and I can always add a little bit more afterwards, but I can't take it away once it's in there. With nice clean hands, I'm gonna give this a toss. And so it's all nicely combined, looking like a pretty tasty Caesar salad. And now I'm gonna take a second, grab my wrap, and we'll be ready to wrap and roll when we get back. We are all ready to assemble our wrap now. So I've got my salad here all mixed up in the bowl, and I'm gonna put that into my fresh tortilla wrap I have here. And I wanna make sure I get all those nice crispy bits out the bottom of my bowl, because that's the best part, right? That nice little crunch that we've got. So pile this all into the center of our wrap. And then to make sure that I've got nice clean hands when it comes to rolling our wrap together, I'm gonna give them a little wipe so that I don't get anything messy on the outside of my wrap. All right, first step of rolling our wrap together is we're gonna fold in these ends, and that's gonna seal up our ends so that nothing falls out when we go to eat our wrap. And then we're gonna fold forward and pull back so that it's nice and tight, and then finish rolling it up. We've got nice tight ends. Now all we've got to do is slice it in half, and we're ready for lunch. There we have it, our chickpea Caesar wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for the very first meeting of the Brooks to Cooks Lunch Club. I hope you come back again tomorrow. We've got lots of tasty treats planned for this week and next, so keep on cooking, and I'll see you again tomorrow.